Hi, good morning everybody. Thank you very much for finding the time to join me here this morning. My name is Mark House and I am the Senior Product Manager here at RM Education, currently looking after, amongst other things, RM Unify. So the purpose of this morning's call is to introduce you to the product, talk a little bit about what it does, particularly around identity and access management. If at any point you have any questions during the call, please feel free to just hop on and send those verbally or jump into the chat window. The way it's going to work is I have a relatively short presentation just to talk you through a few basic principles. Then after that, we're going to go into a live demo and show you things from the interface. But like I say, there's only a few of us on the call here. Feel free to direct it in any particular direction that you may want to take the presentation as we go through. Okay, so a little bit about myself. I was a school teacher forever until about a couple of years ago. Taught in state schools in the UK. No particular great love of IT, but certainly felt the pain as a teacher and also for my students when it didn't go so well. So over the past couple of years I've been here at RM trying to bring front and center that school experience to the products that I'm dealing with. And this particular one I think does add a huge amount of value to schools as a whole, but particularly to the end user, to the teacher and to the student, which I guess is what we should be all about. So one of the things that we're starting to understand a bit better is the way that the school network is changing. We're moving to, as everybody knows, a more cloud-based situation here, and at its center is going to be the issue of identity management, because the single identity in the school, the student or the teacher, is going to need to access platforms, devices. We're going to have to look after their safety. They're still going to have a network, so we need to be able to manage their identity on the network, their security, backup. So at the center, however, you do need to have some sort of identity management system. You can DIY it, do it yourself, but there are consequences for that, not least time and energy. So this diagram here sort of shows the identity management issue that schools have. They are going to have to constantly bring users in and take users out, and at the same time they're going to have to manage the life cycle as that. Oops, got my point here. They have to manage the life cycle of the user as they go through. We know that in a lot of schools there's a lot of people. We could have obviously the big turnover in August, September time, but equally we have people dropping in and out all of the time. If you're in a very large organization such as a multi-academy trust or a large secondary school, it's probably going to be a daily or weekly issue where you're going to have to get people in, you have to authenticate and authorize them, the degree of self-service you're going to allow them to take part in, which are password policy, compliance and deprovisioning. And this is a major operation. So it's expensive to develop internal processes and systems to manage it yourself. It's expensive to maintain and operate if you do come up with your own systems. It's expensive if things go wrong, really expensive. We have GDPR on the horizon here. If people's identities are not managed properly and something goes wrong, then there's obviously a cost. And as I've just mentioned, there are issues of safety, security, compliance, and all come into play. So at the moment, this is a pretty big issue, but it's going to get bigger and bigger. It's not going anywhere at the moment. So one of the things, one of the key elements of RM Unify is to hopefully make this thing automated and quick and efficient so that you can save time and you can save money. So how do we get users into Unify? There's a number of different ways you can get them in. You could just use the UI. So in other words, you could just use the user interface built in Unify and manually put them in. You could upload a CSV. You could, and we do have a few schools like this who've given away, they no longer have an AD on site or any sort of network, and they're literally just putting people in from the MIS, so they don't make any effort at all for Unify to talk to the AD. We have some of them who provision users from the AD, okay, into Unify, and they will then enhance the data by linking with their MIS, so we know a little bit more about that user. Some of them simply sync from the AD and have no relationship with the MIS, so it's sort of the reverse of this one here. And the new one, which is the most powerful one, is where we tie up the cloud with the network, which I'll talk to you about in a moment. Now, depending on your choice of user provisioning, it really does determine what you're going to get out of it. So RM Unify will provide desktop single sign-on, but only if you select one of these three here. It will, one of the key decisions you'll need to make is, well, where is your single point of truth? Okay, is it your MIS? Is it your AD? Or don't you really have one? What's your relationship between the cloud and the AD? Do you want the cloud, okay, to go into the AD, or the AD to go back to the cloud? If you want it to go both ways, then you need our network provisioning solution. And finally, what's your attitude towards groups? Do you want this solution to manage groups in G Suite and Office 365, or do you not? So if you want yeses across the board to desktop single sign-on, you want a cloud AD relationship, and you want your groups, then this network provisioning tool is going to be the thing ultimately. But it does drive the users from the MIS, and we know that a lot of people at the moment are still questioning whether they want the MIS or the AD to do the work. So let's talk about that very quickly. So in the model that you can see on the screen at the moment, this is the network provisioning model. And what it's doing is it's taking users from the MIS, and as you see, we support pretty much everybody. Okay, it's going to take the user, it's going to put them into RM Unify, and then from Unify, it's going to fire them down to the AD. Now, the diagram actually should have a little arrow like this, certainly for passwords, because if we change passwords here, they're going to change up here. If we change passwords here, it's going to change down onto the AD. This system now means that we are managing our platforms, we're managing our apps, and we're managing our devices. We have single sign-on running, and the thing is completely automated. So a new user joins the MIS, they're going to live in Unify. Because they live in Unify, they're going to live on the AD, they're going to be able to use all the devices, they're going to be able to use all the apps, they're going to be able to use the platforms. We don't really have to do anything. If they change their relationship to the MIS, so for example, if they move up a year or down a year, then that's going to be reflected in our supplementary services around the outside here. So it's a hugely powerful tool. Unify, because of the importance of identity management, it's important, we think, to understand that whether the solution is proven with its scale and security. So RM Unify at the moment runs in primary schools, it runs in secondary schools, it runs in MATs, and it even runs across entire governments. So we currently provide the Glow solution for Scotland, which on its own provides the service to over 3,500 schools. So in total, RM Unify is servicing over 7,500 schools. It uses over 3.5 million monthly users. It guarantees an uptime of 99.999 or 39%, and it complies to ISO 27001. So therefore, if you do run Unify, this should mean that you can sleep well at night, knowing that it's not going to fall over, you're not going to break any of the compliance regulations, and if you don't need to worry about the scale of the operation you're trying to run here. It will just work. Okay, so if you want to know a little bit more after this presentation I'm giving you here, there are a few places you can go and have a look around. Okay, a simple search on Google will take you to these places. If you search RM Unify blog, you'll find it. RM Unify support, RM Unify roadmap on YouTube. The blog has any number of articles describing the functionality of the system. It's all searchable. Support gives much more technical guidance. So if you're interested in the real deep back-end sort of stuff, that'll give you the articles here. In fact, I'll just show you very quickly. So this is the blog, and you'll see that there are wikis, and there's software updates, and there's data retention information. So that's the blog. On the support page, if I type in, for example, Google Classroom, search that, it'll tell me exactly about how that behaves, and this is in much more sort of detail on there. The roadmap, okay, runs off Trello, and you can see at the moment that we break things into apps onboarded, recently live, in development, up next, and ideas, and we do encourage people to upvote it. Okay, so we know what people are thinking. It won't necessarily, I'm afraid, guarantee a place on the next line of development, but we do follow this really carefully to help develop the product. And finally, there is a YouTube channel with a bunch of introductory videos. Okay, so in summary, RM Unify is identity management with full MIS integration. You can either drive users from the AD, and you can then sync in your MIS users. It does allow single sign-on to all of your cloud services, including both platforms. It's enterprise proven, it's stable, has scale, security, it's very, very flexible. And it's dual platform capability. Now, as you'll see in a moment, you can choose to run G Suite through it, you can choose to run 365 through it, or you can choose to run both. It will provision users and groups into 365 and to G Suite, so all your Google Classrooms can be provisioned out of it, for example. Hopefully you've seen today that this operation should save pretty much everybody a lot of time, a lot of money, and also make an impact into the classroom. The idea that a user can single sign on into a desktop PC and get straight to where they want to get to is great, but equally, because it's a cloud-based service, you can hop onto any device, hop onto an iPad, hop onto an Android device, hop onto absolutely anything, find your way to RM Unify, and you are good to go. You can create and manage your Office 365 and G Suite accounts. So what it'll do, it'll provision, as we saw in the lifecycle diagram, it'll actually create an account, but it'll also take the account away at the end. So you haven't got lots of dud accounts lying around. The users you have in G Suite and 365 will be the users in the school. Because of the way that groups works, you can then start to use supplementary tools in here. So, for example, if you're managing Chromebooks or Windows 10s devices, or you are want to put online filtering in, then the power that groups give you will help you to leverage that. Okay, so let's go to our demonstration. Oops, let me just find it. Okay, so what I've done is I've gone into Google and I've just searched for RM Unify, and it takes me to a sign-in page, and then in here I've put in my single sign-on credentials. In this case I'm using an admin account. This page here that you're seeing here at the moment is currently being updated. There are opportunities to have it white labeled. If you're a big enough organization and you did want to have this personalized, we are able to do that. And I'm going to click sign in, and that should take me into my Launchpad. And what you'll see straight away is that I am signed into G Suite and I'm signed into 365, and we can show that. If I click on the G Suite, it's going to take me into here. And if I click on the button on the side here, you'll see I've got this god-awful email address here. This is the way it's set up. But of course, when I logged in, I didn't have to remember that. I just had to remember the very small Unify one. And if I come on to the 365 area, it'll bring up the 365. And in here, again, I'm authenticated into the user here. So we do have some schools who want to, whoops, let me just see if I can get this back up. Let's try again. Okay, bear with me a second to connect. Hey, I think we're up and running. Okay, so the connection dropped out. Sorry if you lost me there. You can see that you can log into both platforms. Interestingly, in the My Files area up here, okay, you can, if you wish, flip between Google Drive and OneDrive. So we do have some schools who have all sorts of different setups. Some of them want to run just 365. Some of them want to run Google. Some of them want to, for example, run some bits of Google, but they want to keep their mail in 365, and this system gives you the flexibility to do that. In the app library, we have just a huge amount of apps that you can access. Let me just find one to demonstrate to you. So for some of them, okay, you're able to buy them directly from the store. For some of them, you can access using existing licenses. So if you've already got an app, one of the most popular ones, for example, is Show My Homework, then by using the connector license, it'll give you the single sign-on that you're looking for. Alternatively, as I say, you can buy it directly from the store. Okay, and you can actually buy it out there if you so wish. There are three types of apps. There are the direct single sign-on apps, which is a bit like this Frog one here. So if I click on the Frog one, this will log me and authenticate me straight in. Okay, fantastic. Some of the apps are essentially cache apps. So what they are saved password tiles. So this is where you go to an app, you have to sign in once, and then it will remember that. And the next time you want to sign back in again. And the other ones you can have are link tiles. So if I click on the BBC tile here, then effectively I am now just linked into that particular site. In the management area, okay, there are, as we discussed, there are the single sign-on options. You can control the launch pads, control the branding of your device. You can change the way it looks once people are logged in. The user audit, because the new network provisioning is not quite ready to show you yet, and I'll explain when that's going to launch in a second or two. Okay, but on here it gives you a full audit of anyone who has, for example, changed anything in the cloud. Okay, so if we've changed, say we've, for example, disabled the user in the cloud, then we'll know that and it will be reflected down to the network. If we've done anything in the network, it will be reflected up to the cloud, and the audit will present absolutely everything on there for you. There is an ability to invite parents, so you can invite parents into this. So you could, for example, have a parent portal which they could use also. Okay, back to the Launchpad. Okay, so up here at the moment, this is my Launchpad. Okay, and this one here is going to be the school Launchpad. If I want to move things to my Launchpad, if I hit the little I button, I can click Launch, Add to my Launchpad, and that will then appear on my Launchpad right here. So it's really easy for you as a manager to decide what's going to go onto the school area. Okay, and then for the users to decide what they want to have in their Launchpad, and this can be granulated by year group through the entire school. Okay, so that's it, really. That's basically the product. Okay. If anybody has any questions, please let me know now. Okay, we've got one question coming in. Okay, so the way to understand, so the question is, how do groups in the RMS fit with the ones in Office 365? What do you mean by that, Mr. Scott? A bit more. Can you just give me an example of what you'd like to know on that exactly, so I can answer that fully? Okay, so I'll do the classic here and just check my knowledge on this. Okay. Oops. Okay, so the groups from oh yeah, just trying to find the right article to show you. Oh, here we go. Yeah. Okay. So so for a question like that, what I did is I went to the knowledge library in RM support, typed that in there, and you'll see that there's a thing here about RM Unify group sync. Okay, and on here it will tell you exactly. Okay. So it says an establishment RM Unify with MIS sync enabled. It is possible to sync your teaching groups, year groups, and registration groups from your MIS with Office 365. This means that teachers can share content and emails to the class without needing to manually add the members. So if you wanted to know more about that, this would essentially tell you absolutely everything about how that runs all the way down there. Does that answer the question? So it's year group, registration group, teaching groups. Okay, perfect. The knowledge library really is deep. You know, you can ask pretty much any sort of technical question in there, and it will bring it up. And a lot of them, as I explained earlier, are also covered off in the blogs. So there are plenty of blogs which will help you to understand how things behave in there also. Any other questions? Okay, so one of the things we talked about today, though, is about the network provisioning, if you remember. Let me just get that back up, if I can get it. Yeah, which was this one here, wasn't it? This is the idea that the network provisions down. Hang on, Keith has got a question. Yeah, so you can't have both. So Keith has asked, is network provisioning and additional service traded provisioning? So it's not like you've got to pay more for it. It's within the same product. It's an either or choice though. If you've currently got AD provisioning, okay, you can't have network provisioning. It's one or the other. If you've currently got it, then there is a tech article that explains for you how to go to how to switch into network provisioning, or we do offer a service where we can do that for you. So yeah, so as you can see on here, they do behave slightly differently. Clearly, one is taking the single point of truth from the MIS. Let me get this up again. Bear with me. Yeah. So the network provisioning is using the MIS as a single point of truth. The AD is obviously using the AD. So the way they behave is differently. But if you are currently an AD sync customer or an AD sync with MIS link customer, then we can do. It's pretty much zero effort, very low effort, flip you into network provisioning, but it is an either or situation. Does it answer your question, Keith? Okay, so the timeline for the user provisioning at the moment is that we are rolling this out, first of all, in like a 3-phase deployment to get this thing out. It's been in pilot, the network provisioning. It's been really popular so far. We've got some excellent results from it. And it's been in pilot with our CC4 schools. So let me just get something up here for you. The timeline at the moment on this is that it will be released for single school CC4 customers ready in time for our seminar series. So if you do pop along to the seminars, and they're available here, then you'll be able to see it for real there and see the thing working on the CC4 network. I'm hoping to be able to demo that, and the next time I do this demonstration, which should be in a couple of weeks' time, I'll be able to show you the actual network provisioning running in real time, which might interest you. Okay, but so we're going to run it as a single school CC4 product first. Then it's going to go to a vanilla offer, which will be for a single school, and then it'll go to a multi-school, like a multi-academy trust situation where we have much more complex provisioning scenarios. But in the first instance, we're going to keep it simple, which is single school CC4 to run in the first instance. Then, as I say, it's going to go to vanilla, and then it will go to a multi-school situation. If you do come along to the seminars, there will be I'll be at all of them. We're heading off on the roads. The first one's in November at Google. Then we're off to Microsoft, and we're off to Cardiff, Warrington, Stansted, Exeter, London again, Ashford. I'm going to cover some miles by the look of this. Birmingham, Newcastle, and each one I'll be there, and you can come and have a chat with me, and I can actually get you right into the nitty-gritty of it if you'd like to come along. Any other questions? I realize that's a bit of a whistle-stop tour. We still do have the product at the moment. If you are interested, let me just come on to it. There is, in terms of the way it's licensed, I just need to show you that. So I've gone to the main page, and about halfway down here it talks about pricing subscriptions. So at the moment we currently have a basic option. Okay, and the basic option is free. So if you did want to sign up and do it, it's limited. You know, you can actually use it to provision your 365 and your G Suite, and you can have the dashboard and all. But it'll only run 5 link tiles. It'll only do single sign-on to RM books and community, so it's limited. But you can have a play with it if you so wanted. Obviously, the premium one is much more. Has many more functions within it, and if you look on the roadmap, you'll see we've got stuff coming all the time to it. The price at the moment is currently running at $4.95 for under 500 pupils, and it's currently running at $9.95 for over 500 pupils, which we think, you know, is a pretty attractive price point. Well, we'll see. We hope so. Are there any other questions? Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just put in the link to the seminars. It'd be great if any of you want to pop up. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on there, not just about Unify. So if you'd like to come out and come and see what's going on with us and all the different things we're doing, including Unify, please pop up. Anytime, if you want to get in touch with me, feel free to reach out at any time. If you leave after this conversation and you want to know a little bit more, then please go to the blogs, go to the support pages and the other things I've shown you today, or just contact me direct. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope that was useful, and I'll hear from you soon. Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Mr. Scott. Sarah, if you're there, thank you very much for joining me today.